We have the Texas flag up here for a reason, friends, and it is due to the absolute insanity of the border crisis. Now we find something even more nefarious that the Biden administration has been doing in 2023. Due to a Freedom of Information Act request, the Biden administration has admitted that instead of making everybody walk across the border, they flew 320,000 people across the border. They flew them so that they didn't have to walk across the border. So when we talk about how many border crossings there were, you have to now add on the 320,000 people who flew on U.S. government dime for free and were then deposited at American cities, airports, and given a temporary humanitarian release. Now, we're going to get into some of the specifics of what this means, but friends, people are throwing words like treason around, and they're not doing so lightly. The fact that you're not just letting people cross the border, but you're actually aiding and abetting, this is worse than them driving them across the border in vehicles. This is them flying from Latin American cities. They don't even have to get to Mexico. They're flying them out of cities like Panama City. They're flying them from Guatemala. They're flying them from other cities. They hadn't even gotten up to the U.S. border. 320,000 people. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and this is a set of updates and things to keep us up to date with what's going on out there. I know a lot of you guys don't watch the mainstream media anymore, and a lot of you guys get your news from YouTube and such, and so I imagine everyone's going to be talking about this today. This is big news out there that the Biden administration itself, this is not an accusation leveled, the Biden administration has released documents admitting that the Customs and Border Patrol Agency actually flew flights full of 320,000 undocumented people into the U.S. They had no visas, they had no paperwork to allow them to come into the United States, and yet they were allowed on these planes. They actually signed up on an app. They designed an app. How much money was spent setting up Obamacare's website? Remember that fiasco? But they managed to set up an app so that people, random people out there in the world, could sign up for a free flight from a random city down in Central America. They could sign up for a flight, show up at the airport, get on the plane, and then the United States government would fly them to cities inside the United States. Which cities, you ask? That's a good question. We're going to get into that too. But let's start off with the fact that these are Latin American cities, and they're not just in Mexico. So the United States is chartering planes to fly people around for free, which that part really gets me. You know, they didn't even have to pay for it. They got free flights. Do you get free flights to go to different places as an American citizen? Nope, no you don't. But if you're not an American citizen and you have no right and no legal reason to be in the United States, you can get a free flight to the United States. And so you don't even have to get to the border. You can just like show up at your airport, get an appointment on your app, and then when you get to the United States, they release you into the United States on a temporary humanitarian release. Now, this is 2023, mind you. Okay, so we're going to do some real quick math here. You're released in the United States without having legal status for 2 years. Now, 2023 this is happening, so everybody in 2023 is going to be here through, let's pick an arbitrary date like November 2024. So they'll all be here for November 2024. I'm sure that doesn't factor into any of the calculus or reasons why this is being done. Certainly not. Certainly not. All right, so they can remain in the United States without legal status for 2 years, at which point they supposedly will have to leave or they'll have to get a work status, which makes you understand why they're trying to ram through the border bills where they're going to start recognizing legal status for everyone here. They're trying to get as many people into the country as possible before they enact that. Anyway, you say, well, they're here, so they're not qualified to do anything, though, except they are eligible to apply for work authorization. And this is what I keep saying. People are like, well, they should crack down on employers that are hiring in illegal aliens or illegal migrants who don't have any work papers. But see, here's the nasty thing, friends, is they do have work papers. All they have to do is go on the government website and apply for a work authorization, which, let's just say, is rubber stamped out to anyone who is remotely, if you cross the border and say, I'm persecuted back in my home, I want to apply for asylum. They give you a court date 10 years out, and then they say, okay, well, you're now here as waiting for your asylum hearing. You qualify for a work authorization as well. So they then have to apply for work authorization, but then they now have essentially a Social Security number. It's not a Social Security number, but it's just like a Social Security number. And they can then show these papers and they can get a job. So everyone coming across the southern border that actually claims asylum, they can get legal work authorization. Everyone dropped off by the airplanes across the United States can get work authorization as well. So cracking down employers that are hiring people without papers isn't really the answer. Those are just lazy companies that just don't check papers, okay? Generally speaking, all these people have work papers, or they could be very quickly told how to get work papers, and if that doesn't infuriate you, I don't know what will. But, so, they're being flown all throughout the United States in 2023, and the Freedom of Information Act request asked which cities in the United States. And the Biden administration pushed back on that and said, no, we're not going to tell you that because, quote, let's see here, it might pose a safety risk or create law enforcement opportunities with CPB lawyers writing that the specific airports would, quote, reveal information about the relative numbers of individuals arriving, thus resources expended at particular airports. Okay, so law enforcement exception is what they're claiming of why they don't want to tell us which cities they've been flying people to. Now, if we were to get a little election map out and we put all the red states and we put all the blue states and then we take the swing states and go purple, how much do you want to bet? How much do you want to bet? Now, you're not going to take me up on this because you know it's a losing bet. How much you want to bet that those cities were almost exclusively in purple states, swing states? You say, Steve, you're being overly cynical. Yeah, well, my experience has taught me that that is the closest thing to truth, is the more cynical you are about the U.S. government and the political establishment, the more closely you are aligned to what is actually true. So there are, Elon Musk came out on Twitter saying, treason indeed, ushering in vast numbers of illegals is why Secretary Mayorkas was impeached by the House. They are importing voters. This is why groups on the far left fight so hard to stop voter ID requirements under the absurd guise of protecting the right to vote. Yikes. 43 U.S. cities are where they got deposited inside the United States. This is a major, major airlift operation. 320,000 people is not a small number. When you're packing 100, 200 people on a plane, we're talking thousands and thousands of flights to 43 cities inside the U.S., which they won't tell us where they are. And then in addition to that, we have all these new people in the United States competing with Americans for jobs and competing with Americans at food banks, competing with Americans for food stamps, and competing with Americans for all sorts of things. And why are we having food shortages in some areas of the country? Particularly areas of the country that are overwhelmed by lots and lots of people from outside the country here. That's why. Why are power usage is up. Usage of food purchases are up. We see all sorts of things, all sorts of strain being put on the system. We have schools that are being overwhelmed by all these children that are coming in from outside the country. Now, to be fair, there's not a terribly lot of children coming across the border right now. It's mostly military-aged males from some people in, Latin America, some people in from Africa, some people from China, some people from India. A lot of Chinese coming across the border right now. Why is that? Are there no other countries that are closer to China that they could, flee to? Well, there's no other countries that would give them quite so many benefits, that's for sure. And how many of them are under orders by the Chinese government to come into the U.S.? We have brought in millions of undocumented Chinese citizens into the United States now. This is absolutely insane. We have over 10 million illegal border crossing people into the United States. So take that for what you will. We have all these people coming in. It's a massive security issue. We don't know who these people are. Many of them dropped their documents before they came into the U.S. They came in with no documents whatsoever, so we only have their word who they are. Big, serious concerns out there. And then, of course, we have the election coming up, which is a big concern there. And not only that, but when it comes to things like unemployment and even potentially in the future Social Security being impacted by all these people coming in, we have lots and lots of concerns of what is going on with all these things. As I put on there, there are no words. There are no words to see how intentionally we are being dismantled by people from the inside using people from the outside. And I get why people want to come to the United States. I get it. I've seen enough of these places where it's absolutely they want to come to the United States. For sure. I don't begrudge a lot of these people for coming over because they're being given the opportunity. They're being invited to come in. When you get on a flight that is a United States government flight, would you be under the perspective that you're doing this legally or illegally? It sure seems like you're coming into the country legally, right? It just sounds like you won the green card lottery, right? If you apply on the app and they say, okay, show up on this date for the flight from this city, and we'll fly you to the U.S., and then we'll release you inside the U.S. They're handing out gift cards with thousands and thousands of dollars on them. They're giving free rent. They're getting free housing inside the United States. Chicago was giving up to $8,000 worth of housing assistance to migrants coming in. Absolutely insane. This is the situation that we're seeing across the board. And even hardcore Democrats are looking at this and saying, this is absolutely insane. We cannot keep doing this. They're realizing that resources are being taken away from American citizens and they're being given to people coming in to the country that don't have documentation, that don't have any legal right to be there. They're being told they have legal rights, but the thing is that we're just being gamed. The whole system is being gamed. We got Secretary Mayorkas, of course, who has been impeached, and the Senate has decided to table his impeachment. They're not going to have an impeachment hearing. And there are folks out there saying that is unprecedented. Can you imagine if the Republican Senate had done that to Donald Trump when he got impeached? If they had just tabled it? Like, yeah, okay, so we saw that you impeached him in the House. We're just not gonna act on that at all. We're not gonna have any hearings. We're not gonna do nothing. We're just gonna ignore that. And that's exactly what the Democrat Senate is doing right now, is that they have tabled Secretary Mayorkas' impeachment. They're just like, we're not going to deal with that. And we're just going to keep on moving with jamming in judicial appointments for the Biden administration. And that's what they're doing. They're putting more and more of these judges, these extremist judges, into positions of authority where they are ruling all sorts of craziness. Absolutely insane. All right, friends, we will keep you up to date on what's going on with all these things. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.